Welcome to Adelaide. Chris Milenko, Macedonian Truth Organisation. Can I say, Mto, faultless delivery today. Very much appreciated. Lovely wording, lovely words. What concerns me is the ideology of the UMD. I'd like to explore it with you briefly. Me, I feel that it needs to represent the diaspora all around the world. I feel there's a dramatic need for an international organisation. I think it's useful. I think you've got the capability to do something useful with it. What concerns me is that everything needs to be fed from that outwards. What does the diaspora want? We don't want the framework agreement is abhorrent to us, is anathema, is disgusting, has reduced the sovereignty of Macedonia. For the UMD to come out and say, look how progressive we are, we've developed a framework agreement, it's totally against my belief system.
To the question, please, to the question. So you're posing a question back to the table.
I'm building to that. Thanks, Steve.
We must get to a time.
Thanks, Steve. I know there's a time frame, but honestly, we could hear and watch screens for hours, but I think the ideology is really important, and the question is based about how the UMD formulates its ideology. When, for example, you sat down in Starbucks in 2005 and said the name is so important, how do we go about saying Democratic Republic of Macedonia sounds like a good idea if it gets us into NATO and EU? And if we're saying that 3 years after 2005, you've said this, how do I get from this to saying our name is gold, we need to keep it? How do I make that leap, Mto?
Okay. The three questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, on the name, because I think that's more, well, the framework report, I mean, it's very concerning, obviously, the document. And yes, internal Macedonian matters are really a concern to all of us. But the name, there's a lot of stake at hand with this name. And I want to explain. Back in 2007, there was two proposals, 3 or 4, whatever, but 2 of them that really stood out. And the Macedonian government analyzed this 2 possibilities. And we all know that Macedonian government did agree to Republic of Macedonia Skopje right before NATO. And we've had people tell us that, for example, the Americans handed to the Greeks this on a silver platter, and then the Greeks said no, and the Macedonians accepted. So this is public information. I'm not exaggerating, whatnot. So now, back in 2007, this Democratic Republic of Macedonia and Independent Republic of Macedonia came to proposals from Ambassador Matthew Minutes. And I think the Macedonian government did cater to some of these 2 things. If you read, if you go to the YouTube and you really analyze it, I think a lot of the times my interview has been taken out of context, and I have not engaged on public forums, and I will tell you, I will not engage on public forums. This is a public forum. And I understand that, we do have to engage the internet and all that stuff, but there are appropriate means for contacting the UMD to clarify any positions, and I just want to make sure that people know that UMD, just because we haven't answered some questions on some forums, doesn't mean we don't have respect for the forum or the internet or other, groups of people. UMD, there's a lot of, when you're dealing with people, I mean, I know you and I know your screening, for example, but there's other people that I don't know, or UMD doesn't know. And there's a lot of people that want to twist and engage and get UMD, because you know what? We all know what the Macedonian organizations worldwide have faced, from Greco-Mani, Bulgaro-Mani, and all those infiltrators into our cause. So I was asked the question on this interview, what do you think of democratic or independent? I didn't agree so much with independent personally. This is just personally. Obviously, it doesn't represent UMD policy. I said that the diaspora may accept the name Democratic Republic of Macedonia to end the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, which we all know is ridiculous. And democratic, in the end, probably is not so bad, but only, and I stress this, only for NATO, EU, and United Nations, because we all know that Macedonia, first of all, UMD is not responsible for Macedonia. Macedonia wants to join NATO and EU. So UMD is out there. How do we help Macedonia join? And the Macedonian government, unfortunately, is in this issue. Yes, they've shot themselves in the foot many times with this issue, but UMD is there to help out as much as possible. So if democratic is the all and be all, which we know the Greeks would not accept, in reality, it may be fine. But you know what? After a lot of these things, and I have to say, I personally did make a mistake probably by saying this. And the reason, and you know what, this was an interview at really the beginning of my sort of activism, fully engaged with media relations. I mean, I was always active before UMD, but really up in this time, UMD was never taken as a serious organization because they're like, blah, blah, blah. That's a typical response that I used to get from the older generation. And this is not to belittle it.